Hey, Reddit. I never imagined I'd end up here, bearing my soul to a bunch of strangers, but I guess life is a funny way of throwing you for a loop. I'm Ethan, and once upon a time, I had what most people would call the perfect setup. Maybe some of you have even seen me online. My wife, Sophia, and I run this lifestyle vlog that blew up out of nowhere. We've got millions of followers, sponsorships rolling in, and we've been doing it for years. The world saw us as this picture-perfect couple living the dream, and honestly, I did too. It's wild to think about, but we really did build something together that most couples can only fantasize about. We'd jet off to incredible places, dine at upscale restaurants, and review all the stuff everyone wishes they could get their hands on. We made our life a show for the world, and for a while, it felt like the universe was really rooting for us. Every time we dropped a video, the comments would flood in, people gushing about how lucky we were to have each other, how flawless our relationship seemed. Looking back, it's insane how convincing that image was. But it's crazy how easy it is to put on a show for the camera, isn't it? I won't lie. Sophia is drop-dead gorgeous. That was a big reason our channel skyrocketed so fast. People couldn't get enough of her. She's got that charm, the kind that makes people feel like they're her best friend, even though they've never met her. She was my partner in all of it, and for the longest time, I really thought we were on the same page. Sure, we had our ups and downs. Who doesn't? But we had this rhythm that just seemed to work. Life behind the scenes wasn't always perfect, but it was good enough, or so I thought. Everything we did together. Vlogging wasn't just something we did for fun. It was our whole life, and we were damn good at it. Looking back now, it's almost laughable how convinced I was that we had everything. We'd film those picture-perfect morning routines or day-in-the-life videos, smiling over breakfast, working out side by side, planning our next trip. People couldn't get enough. But somewhere along the way, things started to shift. At first, the changes were subtle. Sophia started working late more often, and it made sense at first. We'd hired a new producer, Ryan, to help us out since the workload was getting out of control. The guy was talented, I'll give him that. He was smart, driven, and had great ideas, a perfect addition to the team. Sophia and Ryan clicked right away, but I didn't think much of it. I mean, she and I were tight. We'd built an empire together, so trust wasn't even a question. Why wouldn't I trust her? But over the last few months, little things started to bother me. Sophia just wasn't herself. She'd come home late after meetings with Ryan, always saying they were just brainstorming or getting extra footage. At first, I chalked it up to her being dedicated to the vlog. We'd both put in ridiculous hours to keep everything running smoothly. But then she started pulling away from me. I tried to give her a kiss when she got home, and she'd turn her head, saying she was too tired. I'd ask about her day, and she'd barely respond, always glued to her phone, distracted. And let's talk about the sex, or rather, the lack of it. We used to have a great sex life. Spontaneous, exciting, the kind of thing that would make you the envy of relationship goals Instagram. But now, it felt like a chore for her, like she was doing me a favor every time we actually got around to it. I wasn't blind. I could tell something was off. One night, she came home late again, and I noticed she smelled like someone else's cologne. I didn't say anything right away because I didn't want to overreact. Maybe I didn't want to face the truth. But that night, lying next to her in bed, I felt it. That deep, gut-wrenching realization that something between us had shifted, and I wasn't sure we could ever get back to where we were. It didn't help that she was spending more time with Ryan than she was with me. He'd text her at all hours, even late into the night. She'd giggle at her phone and then quickly hide the screen when I asked what was so funny. I tried to play it cool at first, asked her about it once, and she just rolled her eyes. "Relax, Ethan," she said, all smug and dismissive. "We're just working on ideas for the vlog. You're overthinking it." Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't. But my gut was screaming at me that something wasn't right. You don't just go from being all over each other to feeling like complete strangers for no reason, right? And then there was that dinner. We were out with Ryan and some of the crew at this fancy restaurant. Sophia, of course, was seated next to him, and the two of them were practically in their own world, laughing, whispering, barely acknowledging anyone else. I tried to ignore it, but it was impossible not to feel like I was a guest at my own damn dinner. She didn't even glance at me the entire night. When we got home, I couldn't hold back any longer. I asked her straight up, "Is something going on between you and Ryan?" She laughed. She had the audacity to laugh in my face. "Are you serious, Ryan? You're being ridiculous, Ethan." But I wasn't buying it. The way she said it, like I was some kind of idiot for even asking, only made me feel worse. It pissed me off, to be honest. I let it slide that night, but the doubt was already eating at me from the inside. After that, I started watching her more closely, looking for clues. Her phone was always on silent now, and she'd get these late-night messages that made her smile. Messages she'd hide the second I asked about them. She'd disappear for hours, saying she was out shooting footage, but come back empty-handed. The signs were all there. So yeah, things definitely weren't as picture-perfect as we made it seem online. Behind the camera, things were falling apart. You know that gut feeling, the one that tells you something's broken, even if you can't quite put your finger on when it started? That's exactly where I was with Sophia. It wasn't like there was some obvious turning point. One day we were fine, and the next everything just felt wrong. She started pulling away, avoiding any real conversations, always using work as her shield. We used to talk about everything, our future plans, where we'd travel next, what we'd do once we hit 1 million subscribers. But those talks disappeared. Now all we talked about was the business, deadlines, sponsors, shooting schedules. It felt like we'd gone from being a married couple to business partners. Physically, she was still there, but mentally, she was long gone. She couldn't even look me in the eyes anymore, like she was too busy thinking about something or someone else. I tried. I really did. I suggested date nights, weekend getaways, just the two of us, no cameras, no work. I thought maybe we just needed some time away to reconnect. But she always had an excuse. "Oh, I've got to meet Ryan to go over the next shoot." Or, "Sorry, I'm swamped with editing this week." Every time it was something work-related. And, of course, Ryan was always involved. I didn't want to be the jealous, paranoid husband who starts accusing his wife without proof. I didn't want to be that guy. But the more it happened, the more it felt like I wasn't even a part of her life anymore. It's hard to explain, but it was like I'd become invisible, just someone who shared a house with her, but wasn't really in her world. The worst part? I couldn't even talk to her about it. Every time I brought it up, she'd shut me down with the same dismissive line. "You're imagining things, Ethan. You're just stressed from work." Every single time. I started wondering if maybe she was right. Maybe I was imagining it all. But it didn't feel like stress. It felt like my wife was slipping away, and I had no idea how to stop it. So, what was I supposed to do? If she wasn't going to give me answers, I had to figure it out for myself. I'm not proud of it, but I went through her phone. She always kept it on her, but one night she left it on the counter while she was in the shower. My heart was racing, but I knew I had to look. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that I wouldn't find anything. And in a way I didn't. I scrolled through her messages with Ryan, expecting to find something incriminating, but there was nothing. No flirty texts, no late-night sexting, nothing that screamed she was cheating. It was all business, talking about upcoming shoots, content ideas, project timelines. It was almost too clean. If she was hiding something, she was doing a damn good job of it. And that just made things worse. The lack of evidence drove me insane. I started questioning myself. Was I really just overreacting? Was I making something out of nothing? I couldn't handle it alone anymore. So I went to my best friend, Jake. He'd known me and Sophia for years, back before the vlog even started. If anyone would understand, it was him. "Man, I don't know what to do," I told him one night over drinks. "Something's off, but I can't prove it. Sophia keeps saying it's all in my head." Jake gave me that look, the one that says, "You're too close to see what's right in front of you." "Ethan," he said, "stop focusing on her phone. If she's up to something, she's not going to leave it out in the open. But you know who might slip up? Ryan." It clicked. Ryan. If something was happening, he wouldn't be as careful as Sophia. He'd be the one to let something slip, to act too familiar when he thought no one was watching. So, I started paying attention. I didn't go full-on stalker or anything, but I kept an eye on the way Sophia acted around him. I noticed the small things, the way she laughed at his dumb jokes, how she leaned in just a little too close when they talked, the way she seemed more relaxed around him than she was around me. They were subtle signs, but when you put them all together, they told a story I couldn't ignore. And then one day, it all came crashing down. Sophia told me she had a business meeting downtown, some potential brand deal she needed to discuss. I didn't think much of it at first, but something about it didn't sit right with me. So, I did something desperate. I followed her. I know it sounds pathetic, but I needed to know. I tailed her car to a fancy hotel downtown. At first, I told myself it was legit, just a meeting like she said. But then I saw Ryan pull up, and my heart sank. I watched from across the street as they walked into the hotel together, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. No briefcases, no business attire. Just two people who clearly weren't there to discuss a sponsorship. In that moment, everything I'd been feeling finally made sense. It was like time froze. I stood there, paralyzed, as the truth hit me like a freight train. All the suspicions, the sleepless nights, the moments I questioned my own sanity. It all added up. Sophia was cheating on me. And not just with anyone, but with Ryan, the guy I thought was my friend, the guy I trusted to help us grow our business. It was all real. Every single doubt I had was right. But I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. I felt the weight of my world collapsing, and I didn't know how to react. So, I just stood there, staring at the entrance to that hotel, trying to keep it together while everything I thought I knew was crumbling before my eyes. I went home that night, trying to act like nothing had changed. But inside, everything was different. I had proof now, undeniable proof, and it was just a matter of time before I would have to confront her. But not yet. I needed a plan. The days that followed were some of the darkest I've ever experienced. How do you even begin to process something like that? It's like drowning while everyone else around you is walking on solid ground, completely unaware that you're sinking. I spent hours in our house, just sitting there, staring at nothing, replaying every moment in my head. Every conversation, every time she looked me in the eye and lied to my face, it all played on repeat. I wanted to confront her, scream at her, demand an explanation. But something held me back. Maybe it was shock, maybe it was fear, but I was paralyzed. I didn't know what to do. For weeks, I lived in this loop of anger, sadness, and confusion. I'd sit across from her at dinner, watching her act like everything was fine, smiling and talking about work like nothing had happened. All the while, I knew exactly what she was doing behind my back. I could barely say a word. Every time I tried to speak, all I wanted to do was throw it in her face. Let her know I wasn't as clueless as she thought. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. And when I did manage to get a few hours of sleep, my dreams were filled with images of her and Ryan, laughing at me like it was all one big joke. My mind kept going back to that moment outside the hotel, watching them walk in together, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. It tore me apart. I didn't know if I should confront her, give her another chance, or burn it all down. Part of me wanted to believe there was some explanation, some twisted logic that would make it all make sense, but deep down I knew better. One night, while she slept next to me, I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding with anger. I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay while she was sneaking around behind my back. And that's when it hit me. She'd spent years building our lives in the spotlight, sharing every detail of our perfect marriage with the world. So, why not reveal the truth in the same way? At first, the idea was just a small thought in the back of my mind. But the more I considered it, the more it grew, until it was all I could think about. If she wanted to live in the public eye, I'd give her the spotlight she so desperately craved. Except this time, it wouldn't be about some travel vlog or product review. No, this time it would be about her betrayal. And the whole world would see it. I started to plan. I wasn't going to rush into it. I needed to make sure that when I exposed her, there would be no way she could deny it, no way she could twist the narrative and make herself look like the victim. I needed cold, hard evidence, and I had to be smart about how I delivered it. The first step was gathering proof. I already had that mental image of her and Ryan walking into the hotel, but that wasn't enough. I needed more. So, I became her shadow. I started checking her phone more often, being careful not to raise any suspicions. I went through her emails, her social media messages, anything that could give me the smoking gun I needed. And then I found it. Jackpot. Text between her and Ryan. Some flirty, some outright sexual, that made my stomach turn. She wasn't even hiding it from him. There were photos too. Nothing graphic, but enough to show that their business meetings weren't exactly professional. Selfies in hotel rooms, lounges, places I knew she'd been with Ryan. And the videos. Short clips they'd sent each other, teasing and flirting, looking way too cozy for people who were supposed to be working together. I saved everything. I wasn't entirely sure how I'd use it yet, but I knew I would. I wanted to destroy her, but I wanted to do it the right way. Next, I reached out to a lawyer. I wasn't going to stick around after this, and I needed to make sure the divorce papers were ready to go the moment I pulled the trigger. The lawyer agreed that gathering as much evidence as possible was the smart move, and I knew I had enough to blow her entire world apart. With the evidence secured and the legal side in place, I began setting the trap. I knew Sophia wouldn't suspect a thing. She was so wrapped up in her little fantasy with Ryan that she wasn't even paying attention to me anymore. We were about to launch a new project, a live stream to announce a major collaboration with a huge brand. It was supposed to be this massive deal, something we'd been hyping up to our audience for weeks. I figured it was the perfect moment. We scheduled the live stream for a Friday night, the time when we always got the most engagement. Sophia, like always, was fully focused on making it flawless, oblivious to the fact that her world was about to implode. I played my part too, pretending to be the supportive husband, excited to share our latest venture with the world. In the days leading up to the live stream, a strange calm came over me. It was eerie, really. Once I made the decision, all the anger, the heartbreak, it just melted away into this cold, calculated determination. I had a plan now, and nothing was going to stand in my way. The night of the stream arrived, and everything was in place. The cameras were perfectly set up, the lighting was flawless, and our audience was waiting. Sophia, as usual, looked stunning. She always did when the cameras were on. You could see the thrill in her eyes, that spark she always got when she was in the spotlight. Little did she know, that perfect little world of hers was about to shatter. As we went live, I slipped into my usual role. I smiled, bantered, played the part of the doting husband, just like I always had. We started talking about our new project, going back and forth like the perfect couple we pretended to be for our millions of followers. But the whole time, I was watching her, waiting for the right moment. The moment where I would turn her world upside down. Sophia had no clue that this was the night everything would change. Not just for her, but for our entire audience. The day of the stream felt like any other, at least to Sophia. She was buzzing around the house, full of excitement about the big announcement we were about to make. She had every little detail planned, angles, lighting, the whole production. She had no idea what was really coming, no clue that I was about to rip her life apart in front of everyone watching. I stood there, feeling a mix of disgust and satisfaction as I watched her. It was almost amusing how she could so effortlessly switch on the charm, how good she was at playing the role of the perfect wife. But I knew the truth, and soon, everyone else would too. We went live right on time, 8 p.m. sharp. The chat immediately lit up with our usual fans, eager to see what the big announcement was all about. They showered us with compliments, saying how great we looked and how excited they were. I smiled at the camera like I always did, playing along. We started with our usual routine, banter about our day, behind-the-scenes stories, hyping up the new project. Sophia was in her element, laughing, smiling, completely unaware that this would be the last time she'd ever do this with me. I won't lie, I was nervous. I didn't know how the audience would react. I didn't know if Sophia would catch on before I could execute my plan. But the more we talked, the more confident I became. The tension was building, and I knew I was standing at the edge, ready to jump. All I had to do was take the plunge. At around the 20-minute mark, I knew it was time. My heart was racing, but I kept my voice steady. I leaned forward slightly, looked straight into the camera, and said, "So, guys, we've got something special for you tonight. Something a little more personal than usual." Sophia turned to me, her eyebrows raised in confusion. She wasn't expecting this, but she didn't interrupt. She trusted me to lead the way. How ironic. I reached for my laptop, where everything I needed was already queued up. Lately, we've been getting a lot of requests to share more about our personal lives, to show what really goes on behind the scenes. I glanced at Sophia, and I could see the smile starting to fade from her face. And tonight, I think it's time we do just that. Sophia shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable now. "Ethan, what are you?" I didn't let her finish. With one click, the screen changed. Suddenly, the viewers weren't seeing us anymore. They were seeing photos of Sophia and Ryan together, walking into hotels, sitting at dinners in places she never told me about. The live chat froze for a moment as the audience tried to process what they were looking at. Then the comments started pouring in. "What the hell is this? Wait, is that Ryan? WDF? Sophia, what's going on?" Sophia's face drained of color. Her hands flew to her mouth, her voice shaking as she shouted, "Ethan, what the fuck is this?" I ignored her, keeping my focus on the camera, speaking directly to our audience. "I'm sure you're all as surprised as I was. You see, while Sophia and I have been filming videos pretending to be this perfect couple, she's been having a little fun on the side with our producer, Ryan. For months now." The chat exploded. Comments were flying in faster than I could even keep track. Some people were shocked. Others immediately turned on her. "OMG, Sophia, no. I knew something was off. What a bitch." "Ethan, I'm so sorry." Sophia tried to speak again, her voice cracking with panic, but I cut her off. My voice was cold, calm, emotionless. "Sophia, you don't get to explain yourself. Not this time. I've seen it all. And so has everyone watching right now. You didn't just cheat on me. You cheated on everyone who believed in us, everyone who supported us. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend anymore." The room was dead silent. Even Sophia, for once, had nothing to say. Her eyes were wide, tears welling up as she started to panic. "This is insane, Ethan. You're blowing everything out of proportion. Ryan and I." "Save it." I cut her off, my voice cold and unflinching as I turned to look at her for the first time during the stream. "You lied to me, Sophia. You lied to everyone. And now, everyone knows exactly who you are." The chat was going absolutely wild. People were throwing insults at her, demanding explanations, while a few die-hard fans still tried to defend her. But it didn't matter. The damage was already done, and there was no coming back from this. And since we're all being honest tonight, I said, feeling a sense of finality wash over me, I think this is the perfect time to let everyone know that this will be our last live stream together. I turned back to face the camera, locking eyes with the lens. "I'm divorcing you, Sophia. Right here, right now. Live." The gasp she let out was loud enough for everyone to hear, like I just knocked the wind out of her. The chat blew up in an instant. People couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Some were cheering me on. Others were in complete shock, but no one could deny the rawness of what was happening. This was as real as it got. "I've already talked to a lawyer," I continued, my voice as steady as ever, "and the papers are ready to go. You can keep lying to yourself, but you won't be lying to me anymore. It's over." By now, Sophia was in full-blown tears streaming down her face, her makeup smudged. But I didn't feel bad. Not after everything she'd put me through. I glanced down at the chat, picking out a few comments to read. "Ethan, you deserve better." "Yeah, I think I do." I smirked a little, reading another one. "Sophia, how could you?" That's the real question, isn't it? She tried one last time, her voice breaking as she looked at me, desperation dripping from her words. Ethan, please, let's talk about this. Don't do this here. We need to handle this privately. I shook my head slowly, my tone final and unyielding. Privately? After everything you've done in the public eye? No, Sophia. We're done. And with that, I ended the stream. The last thing our audience saw was Sophia, sitting there in shock, her tears falling as her entire world crumbled around her. As soon as the stream ended, I let out a long breath I didn't even realize I'd been holding. The room was suddenly so quiet, except for Sophia's quiet sobs, but I didn't care anymore. I was done feeling anything for her. I'd exposed her for the liar she was, and now the entire world knew it too. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The weight of the betrayal, the lies, it was all gone. When I woke up the next morning, everything had changed. The fallout from the stream was immediate. Social media was on fire. The clips of the stream were everywhere, being shared and commented on faster than I could keep track of. The hashtags #EthanDeservesBetter and #SophiaExposed were trending across every platform. It was inescapable. By the afternoon, the real chaos had begun. Sponsors were pulling out, one after another. Brands that had been throwing money at us for years suddenly wanted nothing to do with us, or rather, with her. Every deal we had lined up was canceled. PR teams were scrambling to clean up the mess and distance themselves from the scandal. It was utter chaos. Sophia's perfect image? Shattered. Her adoring fans? Turning on her in droves. She tried to do some damage control, posting statements about how things were more complicated than they seemed, but no one was buying it. Every time she posted, the comments would flood in, tearing her apart. It was brutal to watch, but I didn't feel an ounce of pity. She'd built her brand on lies, and now she was paying the price. Meanwhile, I was getting messages of support from people all over the place. Some told me I'd done the right thing. Others shared their own stories of betrayal. A lot of them said they wished they'd had the guts to do what I did. It was validating in a way, knowing I wasn't alone. But at the same time, it felt hollow. The life we'd built, the one I thought was real, was gone. And now, I wasn't sure what came next. As for Ryan, his reputation took a nosedive too. He lost clients, lost deals. No one wanted to be associated with him anymore. He tried reaching out to me, first through pathetic text messages, claiming it wasn't what it looked like, that I'd blown everything out of proportion. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. He was just as guilty as Sophia, maybe even worse. Eventually, Ryan lawyered up. His attorney sent a letter accusing me of defamation and threatening to sue me for damages, claiming I'd ruined his career by showing those photos and videos during the stream. But the thing is, I'd been prepared for this. My lawyer had warned me about the possibility, so we made sure everything I revealed was backed up by solid proof. The texts, the emails, the footage, it was all airtight. Ryan didn't have a leg to stand on. After that, I didn't hear from him again. He was left to stew in the mess he'd created. And Sophia? She tried picking up the pieces, but there wasn't much left to salvage. A few days after the stream, she came to me, begging for a chance to explain herself. She looked awful, her hair disheveled, her eyes puffy from crying, a shadow of the woman she used to pretend to be online. But it was too late. I wasn't interested in hearing her excuses anymore. "Ethan," she whispered, barely audible. "I screwed up, I know. But we can fix this. Please, just let me explain." I stared at her, and for the first time, there wasn't any rage bubbling up inside. Instead, I felt empty. "Explain what, Sophia?" I asked, my voice flat. "That you've been sleeping with our producer for months? That you've been lying to my face again and again? What exactly is left to explain?" She collapsed into tears, her face streaked with guilt. "It wasn't like that. It wasn't serious. I never meant to hurt you. It just happened." I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. "It just happened? You walked into hotel rooms with him, sent him those videos. You made a choice, Sophia. Over and over again, you chose to betray me. And now what? You expect me to just what? Pretend none of it happened?" She shook her head, trying to reach out, but I pulled back, refusing to let her touch me. "I made a mistake," she mumbled. "But we've built so much together. We can't just throw it all away." I locked eyes with her, letting the silence stretch out. Maybe she genuinely believed that. Maybe she thought there was something left to save from the wreckage she'd created. But I was done. Truth be told, I'd been done for a while now. "We didn't build anything, Sophia," I said, my voice colder than I expected. "You built a lie, and I just didn't see it. But now I see everything clearly. And I'm not going back." She kept trying after that, showing up at the house, bombarding me with long, tear-filled texts, desperately trying to convince me she was sorry. But I wasn't buying it. She wasn't sorry for the damage she caused. She was only sorry she got caught. The divorce was quick. No drawn-out battles, no messy drama. There wasn't much worth fighting for anymore. The vlog, the sponsors, everything we'd built together, it was gone. She had no ground to stand on, and honestly, I didn't care enough to drag it out. All I wanted was to be free of her. In the end, Sophia lost it all. The brand, the money, the followers, everything she thought made her important was stripped away. She tried to start over, to launch her own channel, but it never took off. People didn't forget, and they sure as hell didn't forgive. Not after I made sure everyone knew what she really was. As for me, I'm still putting the pieces of my life back together. It hasn't been easy, but for the first time in a long while, I finally feel like I have control again. I don't know what's next, but whatever it is, it won't be built on lies this time. Funny thing about the truth, it frees you, even if it destroys everything in its wake. Sitting here now, looking back on all of it, it's hard to believe how far I've come. Not too long ago, my entire world was crumbling around me, but now things are different. I've had a lot of time to think about the choices I made, and while I don't regret exposing her, I'll admit it was a hell of a gamble. Putting it all out there, dragging our mess into the public, there were a million ways it could have gone sideways. But in the end, it gave me what I needed most, closure. Sometimes I wonder if maybe I should have handled it differently. Kept things quiet, confronted her behind closed doors, spared us both the public spectacle. But after all her lies, after how she dragged me through the mud, the only way I could move on was by showing the world who she really was. And honestly, I made peace with it. The fallout was brutal, no doubt. We both lost a lot. But for the first time in a long time, I feel free. And that freedom? It was worth every bit of the chaos. Once everything settled down, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let my past define me. The vlog we built together, it's still going strong, but now it's mine. Solo. At first, I didn't think I could keep going with it. Every part of it reminded me of her, of the life we had. But after a while, I realized it wasn't the vlog's fault. I still loved doing it, and I was damn good at it. And you know what? People stuck around. The fans who supported me through all the mess, they kept watching. We've even gained new followers since everything blew up. But here's the thing, now I'm doing it on my terms. I'm not chasing after fame or trying to create this flawless image of myself anymore. That part of my life, it's dead. Now, I'm just doing what I love because I love it, not because I need validation from strangers on the internet. That mindset shift led me somewhere unexpected. Business. I ended up starting my own company, something completely separate from the world of vlogging. It began small, just a few ideas I'd been mulling over for a while, but before I knew it, it turned into something real. It feels damn good, building something with my own two hands, something that has nothing to do with Sophia or the life we used to share. I'm not chasing views or sponsorships anymore. I'm chasing growth. Personal growth. I've been focusing on myself, working out, eating better, even getting into meditation, if you can believe that. I know it sounds cliche, but I've learned a lot about who I am in the process. I've spent years being what everyone else wanted me to be, but now I'm just being me. And for once, that's enough. I've also started reconnecting with people I hadn't seen in years. Friends, family I'd lost touch with because I was too consumed by the perfect life Sophia and I were pretending to have. Turns out, they were there all along. Funny how clear things get when you strip away all the bullshit. Do I miss the fame? Not really. Sure, it was addicting having millions of people hang on my every word. But I don't need that anymore. I'm not living for likes and comments. I'm living for myself. And it feels damn good. As for Sophia, haven't seen her in ages. Last I heard, she's still trying to salvage a career, but that's tough when your reputation's in tatters. Part of me wonders if she'll ever learn from what she did, or if she'll just keep blaming everyone else for her downfall. But honestly, that's not my problem anymore. She's part of my past now, a closed chapter. So here I am, starting fresh. A new life, a new beginning. No more lies, no more pretending. It's scary, yeah, but it's also exciting. I realized I'm stronger than I ever gave myself credit for, and no one can take that away from me. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that the truth, no matter how ugly, is always better than living a lie. That's the path I'm on now, living in truth, building something real, and letting the rest fall away. Here's to whatever comes next.